Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Natty News Daily Weekly, my segment where we bring you a little bit more of like the live updates, a little long form discussion. It's a high carb day, so I have enough energy to get through this today. I have a little bit of time to get through this today. So let's get right into it. Had a couple big shows recently, and we're gearing up for even more big shows. So there's three stories about different shows across different federations, and two less newsy, more like informational posts that I kind of wanted to cover because I think it's a little bit appropriate with a lot of these shows and the show season or season B if you're over in Australia kicking off. So you can see here OCB presidential. OCB is just really kind of taken it to a lot of the federations this year. Obviously, I've covered their expansion in multiple different countries, but more so, at least domestically in the US, some big shows with some great competition. So, OCB Presidential, 21 pro men bodybuilders. You don't see that. You don't see that in any federation. Um, International, maybe. I don't know. Less up to date on that one. I've been to a couple pro shows recently and some other larger organizations, some respected organizations having two pros show up, one pro show up. It's not a great look. So 21 pros is just outstanding. And obviously, if this is one of the qualifiers, you can imagine what the Yorton Cup's going to look like this year. So that'll be a fun show to watch and see what results come out of it. Now, these aren't schmucks either, right? So Amika here, world-class bodybuilder for sure. Beautiful combination of conditioning, proportion, like the round muscle bellies. On his right in second place, Marshall Johnson. I don't really need to talk too much about him. True legend of the sport. Um, Obviously, could smoke a vast majority of current and active pros. And then on the left here, a little bit lesser known, but well known in the Rochester region is Frank Gigante, who just brings a like super grainy, vascular physique, super dense, and also an older gentleman as well. So Marshall Johnson, 60 plus. Frank, I think, is 50. I can click the page and show you here just a little bit. I mean, you can see from just this first photo, just the vascularity and the graininess that I was talking about. So brings a high quality physique, even if it may be not the most like flowy and aesthetic compared to Amika there beside him. But yeah, just a great athlete across the board. But I wanted to highlight, not just the bodybuilders, but you can scroll through here and look at all their champions. Carolina Muscle, Jamal Williams winning the classic physique. Again, fantastic shape there. He's hidden his tiny waist with the massive belt that he won, but the quads sweeping right down into that tiny waist. I mean, he is a phenomenal representation of what classic physique I think should look like. Could do well on a bodybuilding stage as well. But definitely like fits home with what the OCB and what other federations are looking for classic physique. So congratulations to him as well. And then all of our, female winners, debut winners, physique winners. You can just kind of check this out. They've covered it pretty well here. So yeah, 21 pro bodybuilders. So that's pretty epic. Love to see that. Spinning it a little bit. 4 weeks out, WNBF Ontario. That is the show that Natty News Daily sponsors. That is Leroy and Carrie's show, run by Leo and WNBF Canada up there. You can see a couple fan favorites, a couple friends of the page gracing the poster this year. And also, Dan and myself will actually be competing in the show this year, so that'll be fun. Maybe against each other. Probably not because he's about 15 pounds heavier than me, and that would mean that I would have to make an overall, which we'll see about that. So yeah, no, this will be a good show. Last year there was about 30 bodybuilders. I think it's a little bit less this year, so let's get some registrations in. 4 weeks. You never know who's going to turn up, but of the competition that is signed up, excluding myself, including Dan, some great bodybuilders. Great bodybuilders there, some good physique talent as well. Leroy's bringing a massive team to the show, so it should be a really good show. The venue's great, super close to the host hotel, super easy to get to from Toronto or Rochester, Buffalo, this whole like upstate region. So yeah, hope to see you guys there. Word is that Phil himself will be there, one of our prior pro card winners, um, handing out some awards. So if you want to meet Phil, if you want to meet the Natty News Daily guys, meet Leroy in person, showing up. Moving on, UK DFBA, right? So some international competition here. I guess WNBF Canada is international as well, but it just doesn't seem like it. Um, I love to see this, even though some athletes might not love to see it because they're closing down registration. But that tells me that things are alive and well with natural bodybuilding in the UK, which I think we all know if you're following this page that UK is just a hotbed for competition. But so, as they say here, I'm assuming Lee writing this, for the first time in 14 years of operation, we're faced with no other option than to close entries for our September 7th event, which is their novice Heart of England event. We currently have just under 200 athletes registered. That's phenomenal, right? Like we're seeing that out of some WNBF, I think like Taiwan, Australia, like the Pacific region. They're getting a lot of athletes, but nowhere else are you really seeing 200 athletes other than maybe the CPA I've heard of, a lot of their shows kind of hitting that mark. But domestically in the US, your big shows are like 100, 110. I mean, at least on average, there's probably a few spontaneous shows that have some great turnout. But a lot of these, I mean, I've seen shows with like 30 athletes, I've seen shows with like 15 athletes. So 200, they're doing something right over there. The environment, the community, it's certainly growing for natural bodybuilding over in the UK, and I love to see that. So moving on, we got two more stories here. One, Dano over here, physique and posing coach for J3U. He's got you some tips for exfoliating. Nobody wants to think about the tan until they've messed up the tan, right? Especially with Dream Tan pretty much being banned across the board now. You got to take care of your skin, right? So he goes through a pretty good video here. It's a little bit corny, a little bit cheesy. He's a goofball, but using Dawn and borax to exfoliate, scrub, and de-oil your skin, which is the big one, right? Like everyone's tan, if you mess it up, it's normally because you're too oily, maybe from stress of traveling, maybe just that's your natural like skin tendency. But you got to find something to exfoliate and strip the oils down so that the tan itself can adhere without mixing and turning green and nasty and splotchy, right? So he kind of shows you lathering on this paste, kind of scrubbing it down, and then you should theoretically be good to go. Obviously, it doesn't have to be borax and Dawn, but if, as he says in the video, if Dawn can take oil spills off of ducks, then it could probably take oil off your skin too, right? So take care of your skin. Most of the tanners will send out information about how to exfoliate, information about skincare prior. Don't disregard it. Listen to it. They know their product well. They have recommendations. Do the recommendations. It might seem like a lot because some of them want you to start exfoliating like a week prior, but you've given 24, maybe more, maybe less, but multiple months of dieting and sacrifice to get to the stage. And if your tan looks like shit on stage, the photos aren't going to come out. A lot of it's going to be wasted, right? Don't waste your work. Do the little things. Do your tanning, do your posing, groom yourself, take care of all the small details before you step on stage because it does matter for sure. It matters in judging and it matters in how you're going to look back on the final product, which honestly are the photos and the memories. All right. And then our final story here from the anti-diet dietitian. I love this one because one, this is something that's with my head right now, and that's why I have a coach, because I'm deep in the hole and it's hard to be both a coach and an athlete for yourself. I don't know how some people do it. I did it for myself for a little bit and it just did not work well. But also a conversation I've had with a lot of my clients, and I know a conversation a lot of other coaches have with a lot of clients is, I think Berto himself said it very well, where fat loss is linear, weight loss is not linear. Meaning underlying, if you are in a chronic deficit, you will be losing fat at a relatively linear pace. However, the scale might not show that because, as we all know, so many different things affect water retention, affect scale weight, whether it's food bulk, change in food, high cortisol, inflammation, all these other things, right? Especially when you get to the females and you right here, hormonal fluctuations, right? Obviously, males have hormonal fluctuations, but not to the degree of, having a period. So all of these things can mess with the scale weight, even when you try and control meal plan, same time of day, after the bathroom, in the AM, there will always be fluctuations on the scale. That's why we look at a rolling average normally, most coaches nowadays. But I think the graphic itself really just shows how, you can start at 80, bump up to 82, drop down to 80, get another fluctuation. And if you looked just right there, you'd say, I'm not losing weight. I think I'm gaining weight, and might dramatically change your protocol based on those 4 weigh-ins. Especially if you come to Wednesday, period kicks in. Now we have more water retention. We're at 85, 85, 85. But then all of a sudden, Saturday, if you just ride the wave a little bit, you're going to see that drop. And now you've dropped a pound across the week, which is kind of what we're mainly shooting for, right? And all it took was just being patient, riding it out. So that's why we try and give ourselves plenty of time and prep so that we can be patient and not have to make these dramatic changes midweek, right? Nothing wrong with it, but you could get to 79 by doing something crazy midweek here, or you could just wait it out and then end up with less panic, less stress, and normally less cardio and higher food, right? So that's going to wrap up today's episode. If you liked it, please let me know in the comments. If you're not already, please subscribe, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow across all platforms, and help us support the natural bodybuilding movement. I'll see you guys in the next one.